Have you ever had lentil soup that was so good you could eat it every single day for, say, 17 years? My Facebook friend, Crescent Dragonwagon, tells the story. The subject line, lentil soup. The sender, Reed Branson, someone unknown to me. She writes, the receipt of emails from unknown senders with such subject lines are not atypical for cookbook writers in the era of Googleability. When I see one, I'm pretty sure it'll be a compliment. I love your Cuban black bean soup. A complaint, the banana bread came out soggy. Or a question, can the potato gratin be frozen? But this email was none of those things. Here is the email. It occurred to me that you might enjoy hearing my story. I came across your Greek lentil and spinach soup with lemon recipe in the Dairy Hollow House Soup and Bread cookbook while casting about for something tasty and nutritious to take to work. I tried it out and liked it so much that I have been eating almost nothing else for lunch at work for 15 years. Yep, every 2 weeks I cook up a batch. Just did it today, in fact. And seal it in nice little glass jars and transport it to work where it keeps me well fed and satisfied day in and day out. This has been true for around 800 weeks now, in a row. Of course, there have been exceptions, illness, vacations, that sort of thing, but not many. My coworkers think I am insane to eat the same thing every day, and you might too, but I wanted you to know how very satisfying I find this rich, fragrant soup. I plan to retire in a little under 2 years, and will probably retire the soup too. We have both had a great run, but as with all good things, the point is reached where enough is enough. However, I still have, if my calculations are correct, about 42 batches to go. Thanks so much for your lovely cookbook and other writings. Crescent, who in addition to having a super cool name, is a super cool, approachable person, naturally she wrote back, Dear Reed, you can have no idea how delighted I was by your email. It made the day I received it, and several days on either side of that day. I was amused, proud, not a little astonished, and altogether tickled. I am glad to have been eating lunch with you all these years without even knowing it. I'm so tickled, in fact, I'd love to do a blog post about you and the soup. May I have your permission to use the note you sent me? If you prefer to stay low profile, I need not use your name, but I'd be thrilled if you wanted to participate a little further. Would you be willing to tell me about what you do and where you work? What day every 2 weeks you make the soup? Saturday, by the way. What is it about the soup you like so much? If you have rung any changes on it, or you still enjoy it as it is, and if you wanted to take a picture or two of yourself, or have a spouse or friend take them, and you wouldn't be shy about my using them, I'd be so pleased. But whether or not you permit me to share this marvelous story, surely beyond what any cookbook author could possibly dream, please know you delighted me. I wish you nourishment, joy, and a happy retirement in 42 batches. Warmly, Crescent Dragonwagon. Dear Diary, Esau writes, I had the best lentil soup ever today. I'd been out in the community garden, parts of it, my parts, quite overtaken with Bermuda grass. Man, what was I thinking, not getting Susan to show me how to amend the soil, enrich it, and block weeds and grass. Ooh, the sun is so hot. This work is intense. I'm no farmer. I was a certified archery instructor. As an aside, can you imagine if your parents had named you after a bodily feature? Hairy, H-A-I-R-Y, also translated as rough in the Hebrew. I guess it's better than heel, like smooth-talking Jacob. But hairy, like animal. I'm so hungry, I can't think. What is that on Jacob's camp stove? Lentils? I'd just about trade my birthright for that. My father's kingdom for a stew. Just the way I like it, too. Jalapeno for some heat, coriander and cumin seeds, basil, oregano, thyme, and of course bay leaves. 2 medium potatoes, 1 10-ounce box of frozen spinach from the camp fridge, of course. A butternut squash cubed for interest, and of course onion, celery, and garlic. And finish it off with a lot of lemon juice. That's it, Jacob. You can have my birthright. Surely you won't actually take it and steal my father's blessing, right? Signed, Esau. This story of Jacob and Esau that we encounter in Genesis today could be described as an ideological myth. That is, an origin story. A story that explains why something is the way it is. A footnote in my Oxford Annotated Bible Notes. The birthright refers to extra rights that normally go to the eldest son, leadership of the family, and a double share of the inheritance. This caricature of Esau as a dull person, outwitted on an empty stomach, is intended to explain Israel's dominance of Edom. So there you have it. Justification for subjugation. And for a bowl of soup or stew, no less. This is another one of those Sunday school head-scratchers. I remember this story from Baptist Sunday school, but I don't remember what I was supposed to learn from it exactly. God doesn't like hairy people? God prefers the criminally minded? Life isn't fair? God is in control? I could see some really bad theology coming out of this. One commentator harkens back to the Puritans and their idea of being chosen, but how some Puritans reminded people that, like Jacob/Israel, they were chosen for a purpose, not just to stand around and be special. Our history has shown the destructive tendencies inherent in this theology when we forget about being chosen for a purpose. Professor of homiletics at Harding University, Dave Bland, writes, "Sadly, in time, Americans changed this to mean that God chose the American people for special privileges in the world. During the 19th century, manifest destiny was the dominant philosophy that determined American policies and outlook. It seemed self-evident that God had chosen America to be God's people and to take possession of all the land between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in order to fulfill what they considered their God-given destiny. The sense of responsibility to others had given way to privilege and the assumption of divine right." Bland reminds us that it was only later, when Jacob acknowledges his unworthiness before God, and when he falls down before the brother he wronged and tried to make amends, that he became great. But what of Esau? What can we learn from hairy, red, maligned Esau? About Esau, senior pastor of Wayne Presbyterian Church, the Reverend Casey Thompson writes, Esau is a figure who might resonate with thousands of people in our pews who suffer because of the stereotypes that persist concerning their race, their gender, their stage in life, or their orientation. You know those Edomites. Terribly hairy, never take a bath. They smell something unrighteous, I tell you. They cannot plan for the future, but you cannot blame them, as they are practically animals, violent, warlike, always having children, never thinking about the ramifications of having them so young, a burden on our system, you know, if they could just control their appetites. Who are our Edomites? Our descendants of Esau. And are they even in our pews? My experience has been that the people, including myself, in Episcopalian pews have more privilege than some of our brothers and sisters beyond our walls. That means we are always in danger of being comfortable and not examining the origins of our own birthrights, forgetting the Esau's on whose backs we live comfortably. According to a Washington Post article, Reed Branson was still planning to retire after 17 years as a nurse, now nursing supervisor of the HIV clinic at Harborview Medical Center, and 17 years of eating Crescent Dragon Wagon's Greek, lentil, and spinach soup with lemon from the Dairy Hollow House Soup and Bread cookbook for lunch every day, about 358 batches total. I think the moral of Reed's life story comes from the hard work that Branson has done as a nurse over the years, rather than from his steady diet of lentils, though. While his story is a wonderful compliment to my friend Crescent, it is ultimately a story of comfort with routine. That might be fine for lunch, or for daily chores and the like, but for our Christian lives, we are called out of the ordinary, out of the routine, into lives of uncertainty and struggle. C.S. Lewis famously said, "I didn't go to religion to make me happy. I always knew a bottle of port would do that." If you want a religion to make you feel really comfortable, I certainly don't recommend Christianity. That doesn't sound like good news, but in God's kingdom, the rules are different. Our great joy is in giving up ourselves in lives of service to others, our starving Esau's, our famished Edomites. Gather them up, call them in,